Like Ohio State didn't change their live signaler all season, the whole year.
What? That's insane.
Very rarely in my line of work is it more beneficial to have been the signal caller than the starting quarterback. You know, like any other situation, I wish I had thrown for 3,500 yards. But here's a breaking story taking over not just college football, Michigan football, my alma mater, and I was the signal guy. So, I mean, Lloyd Carr and Scott Loeffler brought me in. I was the live signaler. Sometimes I was the dummy signaler, mostly during Lloyd Carr's tenure. And Rich Rodriguez comes in for 2 years. I was the live signaler primarily throughout my time with Rich Rodriguez. But so this is why I was like, this is my fastball, you know, and I was trying to give the best possible information I could to our listeners. I do want to say in terms of like the bluff signals, like I don't think you would have been able to identify that I was the dummy.
I don't know.
I think I would have gotten you.
It's amazing the amount of pride that backup quarterbacks take in their signal.
If I was tasked that game day with sending in the fake dummy signals, I'm going to be the best in the country at it, or else you can't play football at Michigan. But seriously though, how did that aspect? Because you've said like you could identify a bluff signal like within a series. Right?
You know, it's funny that you bring that up because I've been deciphering signals ever since 2014 at Navy. And just like anything, so that's 10 years of doing it, you just get better over time, right? And at some point, probably around 2018, 2019, with my time in Michigan, when I realized, this is a bigger deal than it was at Navy, just in the Big Ten and everyone's doing it. I realized, first of all, in my first game at Navy, it was against Ohio State. Doing this. And I went in with a blank sheet of paper, a pen, and a clipboard. And by the end of the probably third drive, I was able to call out formation and most of the run concepts, at least know when they're going to pass. Because I just told myself, and this is, I think I said this in the documentary, it's like no offense to Ohio State, but I got to be smarter than the 18, 19-year-olds on the field.
Yeah.
Right, so like don't overthink this. It's not rocket science. They're just communicating a formation.
You're not solving the Enigma machine from the Nazis.
It's just some pre-snap information and some post-snap information. And, so it's like, it's not rocket science. And then over time I realized, because teams will have, like Ohio State has 8 signalers. They'll have like 3 signaling to the O-line and like 5 signaling to the skills. And I just realized at some point, they don't teach how to not signal, how to bluff signal.
Gotcha.
They just teach you how to signal. Like, these are what the signals are. You're live, you're dummy, you're dummy, you're dummy. Well, unless you teach them how to dummy, and not only that, you have to teach the players how to not stare, like the easiest way. If I'm a receiver, standing on the sideline, right next to the sideline that my signalers are on, and they're kind of spread out, usually it's pretty easy to tell that receiver is just staring at that guy when there's another guy right there, unless he's got his helmet like this, looking like that, and no one's thinking about that during the game. So, what we did so Denard would help me during games, and I would go in with the mentality of this is every drive, because to be really good, you have to be able to change who's live each drive. Right now, some teams didn't change throughout a whole quarter, throughout a game, or throughout a season. We can get into that in a little bit. But I went in prepping for this team could change who's live on any given drive.
Okay.
And so the most important signal is the first signal, right? Because you want to be able to tell who's live right away, so you're not just saying something that, come to find out, I just said the wrong signal because I thought this guy was live, and he's not. So what we would do is I would look at all the signalers, and I would be looking like process of elimination. So, for example, Michigan State had a signaler on offense that was also a signaler on defense. And I think he was like live on defense, but not much on offense. And he would signal like cover 3 as an offensive signaler.
Yeah.
Like I just knew that was their cover 3 signal. Like, or most signalers, they just signal the same thing over and over again. It's really quick. So you can usually tell without any help. I could just look at all 4 and process of eliminate. He's not live, he might be live, and he might be live. So it's one of these two. And then without any help, I could just say, okay, he just signaled definitely a run concept because he only did one thing after the formation. And this guy did like 6 things and tagged letters like X, whatever, Z, whatever. Okay, so that's a pass. And then you just watch the play. Well, they ran the ball, so that guy's live.
Yeah.
Right? Or they passed the ball, that guy's live. So I would be doing that on my own. At the same time, I would have Denard look at so he would look at the signalers with his eyes, but in his peripherals and his mental focus would be on the players. And when the players looked away, he would tell me which signaler just finished their signal.
And who was still signaling.
Because every signaler is going to go through their signal at least 2 or 3 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you signal 6 different things, but you're signaling 3 different things, and we're doing it at the same time, and all the players looked away after I finished my 6 signals, you just went on 2 different rotations of your signal.
Yeah.
So Denard would say, hey, I think it's red hat. And if I thought it was red hat, boom, we're good.
Got him.
Don't need you anymore, appreciate it, we're rolling. If very rarely, I'm talking maybe once a game, he would say, hey, I think it's green hat, and I'd think it's blue hat or whatever, then I just wouldn't say anything, and I'd be like, hey, let's try again. And he knew, and I knew that meant one of us is wrong. I'm not saying which one it is. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's wrong. And then the next play, either he'd be like, oh, no, I think it's green hat. Okay, here we go.
We've all been there, endlessly scrolling through these fitness influencers, selling you complicated routines that promise the world, but in reality deliver very little. But the truth is, most of these tips and tricks just overcomplicate what should be simple. And that's where Fitbod comes in, where they combine the workout planning and tracking you need to actually stay consistent and make real progress. What makes Fitbod special is how it builds workouts around your specific situation. This app crafts routines based on your unique fitness journey and available equipment, and it even factors in your recovery time between sessions. Now, their smart technology also ensures each workout hits the sweet spot, challenging enough to drive results without pushing you to burnout. Plus, with over 1,000 demonstration videos, you'll never wonder if you're doing an exercise correctly or not. It's like having a trainer who really knows you, pushing you enough to make progress without burning out. So level up your workout. Join Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan and get 25% off your subscription, or try the app free for 7 days at fitbod.me/booster. That's fitbod.me/booster. Well, even if you narrowed it down to just green hat and red hat, if you narrowed down 2 out of the 4, you're still making progress.
Oh yeah, by the second play. But it was like, the competitiveness in me. Like, I want to get this during the first play.
So that's funny, because from my standpoint, when I was sending bluff signals, I'm trying to be competitive and make sure that, and this is 15 years, this is like, that's what I was trying to tell people. Like, it's been going on for a long time.
It's like NIL, like Jimbo Fisher said, NIL's been going on for a long time. Y'all just started hearing about it.
Correct.
But the timing is something that's key, because on the headset, if we're all sending our signals and we're done, sometimes that additional call or clarification or extra tag, no, X logo. Well, the live signaler's turning back around to give that signal, and if the 3 bluffs, so it was incumbent on us to like do the exact at least timing thing, but we're sending a different signal. Yep. Also, a big part of that in the Lloyd Carr offense was pre-tempo. So we were huddling, and you say like, okay, well, why does that even matter? Because we have 120 plays on the wristband. But a lot of times we're sending in A1. So Chad Henne was the starting quarterback. I think can read A1, but every single play also had a full signal. Well, if I'm bluffing that day, I can't be sending in a full signal if the play is A1 and Chad immediately goes down to his wristband, or else you're going to be able to identify that I'm sending dummy signals for that one. But then to the contrary on that is like, you also can't be, vice versa. You have to be aligned with whoever the live signaler is.
It is more important. So, if I'm a DC or if I'm an OC and we got 3 signalers or whatever the case is, I'm taking my smartest GA or backup QB or student coach or whoever it is. I'm making the smartest one the dummy 90% of the time, not the live guy. Most coaches, and again, this is what I just kind of realized over time, most coaches are so scared of their own players and their own signalers messing up that they don't put any time into the dummy stuff. They just put their best guy as the live signaler. Mm-hmm. So that's the other thing. You can go into a game and like, well, there's a GA and then there's 3 backup quarterbacks. Yeah. The GA is probably live.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ohio State didn't change their live signaler in 2022 all season, the whole year.
What? What season? What year was this?
2022. And
In 2022,
in the shoe.
they didn't change who the live guy, who was the hot the whole year.
Including the game against Michigan.
Halftime. So it's funny.
They switched at halftime.
The first half,
At your ass, they did.
After a couple drives of the first half, and we did this every game where Denard would look at the whole peripheral thing, and I'd try to process eliminate. After like a couple drives, I mean, we're like, I don't think they're going to change, man. It's been the same guy all year. You can call anyone from any Big Ten team when you trade signals, during the week, and they all say the same thing. Yeah, it's the same guy. And then when you watch any game on TV, you can tell the whole time who's live.
Is that out of arrogance or incompetence in your opinion?
It might be a little bit of both. I don't know. Yeah. But so at halftime, we're in there in the locker room, and again, we're more concerned about actual scheme and actual adjustments, right? And then, I talk with Denard for a couple minutes and about the signal stuff. I say, hey, if there's any time all year they're going to change, it's going to be this first drive or the second drive.
You said that at halftime?
Coming out of this half. And sure enough, I said, if they're going to change, it's going to be that guy, the tall GA or whatever. And sure enough, they switched. I think maybe a couple plays in, I'm like, hey, what do you think? And he's like, I think they did change to
which is a huge compliment. Which is a huge compliment to you guys. Yeah. I mean, because obviously at some point they had those coaches, the Ohio State coaches on the headset, had to say like whatever pre-snap adjustments are. Because I want to ask you about process next. Yep. But at some point they had to figure out like, dude, it's like boy from Little Giants. They know the play.
So, there's a lot to talk about with this Michigan Ohio State stuff. So, sticking with that specific game. And then we'll go back to kind of the history of the signal game within the game within the game.
Yeah.
That 2022 game, they did not. So I've seen articles where they say they changed their signals going into that game, which, okay, if you did, then what are we even talking about, right? But they changed their route concepts going into that game. I don't care what your route concepts are, right? If I can tell you're going to run the ball or pass the ball, or if I can, usually it's all I care about is the formation, right? And then you get a lot, hey, if they're in this formation, they're going to run 90% of the time. If they're in that formation, they're going to, do that percentage of the time. So they didn't change any of the formations, and they didn't change their pass protection signals.
Oh.
Like their 5- and 6-man pass pros were the same thing, I think, for a few years.
Why is the formation important to you? Because you're about to find out the formation anyway, right?
True, but if you go up tempo and going back to 2018 now, it's just this cat and mouse game, right? Where 2018 and 2019. And I wasn't there 2020 because of COVID. But, in 2018, 19, I'm flying back and forth from being stationed out in California, and we both knew each other's signals 100%. At pretty much every signal, both sides knew the other teams, and they would just wait for us to signal, and we would signal. And then they would talk, and then they would call their play, and then I would get it, but we already called our play, right? And they hard counted. Isaiah Hull tweeted out something. We can pull that up, but we did all the numbers where if you go back 2018, 2019. I mean, I've watched every single snap when Ohio State's on offense, Michigan's on defense. Going back to 2018, I did not do the same math for this season, but we won, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah.
But 2018 and 2019, they hard counted a crazy amount, like 40-something times a game, where they're getting to the line, boom, they don't snap it, they look to the sideline. We already called our play. If we're in cover one, they run mesh rail. If we're in zone, they run the ball. If we're bringing pressure, they're in max protection, taking a shot. Right? That's not a coincidence. You don't go through that game and be like, every time
Wow.
Michigan's in man.
It's like beating the
they're
dealer
running
every
rub
time in
routes.
blackjack.
I remember Dwayne
Yeah.
Haskins running mesh rail with
Every
a lot
time.
of success against Michigan.
Oh my gosh. Every single time we happen to be in man. Right. And every time we happen to blitz, they happen to have 7 in pass pro and they're taking a shot downfield. So that whole thing went on. And 2021, enter Mike McDonald. Biggest difference was he straight up asked me, how do we protect our signals? He said, you know, I've heard that we've been getting picked apart a little bit. Like, how do we protect? And the short answer to him was just wait till I start talking, because that means they've started to signal. Because once you understand it's a cat and mouse game, you just have to signal second and you're good. Then you're signal.
And the play clock's on them.
Correct.
Offense.
Yeah.
And
you
the
have
play
a
clock on the
huge
defense.
advantage on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is just for no huddle up-tempo offenses, right?
There aren't many teams that did not and still probably don't signal.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother conversation we'll get into later. But so yeah, he asked that. You wait till I talk, right? Now there's a lot more. There's a longer answer. Like, okay, you know, we got to change who's live in between, you know, in the middle of a drive or whatever the case is. There's a lot of isms that can throw off a really good signal stealer that, you know, we would get into. And at that point, he's like, dude, I don't, whatever. You do what you need to do to get our signalers right. I just care about us not getting picked apart.
Hey, YouTube, appreciate you guys hopping on. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on so you know when Crain & Company goes to college or locker room talk is dropping.